Hello, my name is Aaron and today we're talking about the Sony A5100 compared to the Sony A6000. So both the Sony A5100 and the A6000 came out in 2014, so now they're 6-year-old cameras. So you think, why are we still talking about them now? They're both two of the biggest selling mirrorless cameras on the market, even now in 2020. They both use the Sony E-mount lens system, which is very useful for interchangeable lenses. Means if you already have some of these lenses, you can use them. Or if you upgrade your camera body in the future, you can use your old lenses that you have bought for these systems, which is a big selling point for both of these cameras. Also, they both have the same 24.3 megapixel sensor, which means photos and videos from both these cameras are going to be about the same. Other similarities are they have the same processor, they have the same amount of autofocus points, 179, they have the same ISO range, goes from 100 all the way up to 25,600, and they can both record video at 1080p at 60 frames per second, meaning practically, under the surface, they are both the same camera. But there are plenty of other differences between both models, which we'll run through now. But before we get into the comparison, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. So up first is the Sony A5100. This camera costs about £400 new, $400, something around that, but the best market for these is second-hand, where they are much cheaper. The A5100 is noticeably smaller compared to the A6000 at 110 by 63 by 36 millimeters, which is 10 millimeters narrower, 4 millimeters shorter, and 9 millimeters thinner than the A6000. Meaning this is a very pocketable size, and this is one of the main selling points of this camera. I find it a very excellent travel camera. Maybe you just take it out with just one lens attached. And because of the low weight, which is only 283 grams, it's very useful for handheld vlogging. And talking of vlogging, one of the main advantages of the A5100 is the flip-up 180-degree screen, which means you can monitor yourself at all times, whether you're just taking selfies or taking YouTube videos like I'm doing here. You can just have the flip screen up so you can check your frame and make sure everything is how you want it. Another great feature of the A5100 is the touch to focus feature, which means you can just touch the screen to focus on your subject in your frame. I find this very, very handy if you need to change focus very quickly. Unfortunately though, this touchscreen doesn't let you navigate the menu. I don't know why this is the case with this camera, as that would really make it a very, very good extra feature. Also, the battery life on the A5100 is very good. You can take about 400 photos before running out of battery. Also, it has a pop-up flash which has a flash range of 4 meters. Now, because of the compact size of the A5100, it does mean you sacrifice on some features. You will notice that there is no function wheel at the top for changing your shoot modes. There is also a lack of extra function buttons on the camera body. This means customization of this camera is very limited, and also changing shoot modes quickly is quite difficult, as you have to jump into the menu every time you would like to do this. There is also no quick function menu. I find this very frustrating because there is no reason why this camera shouldn't have this as well. Though one feature it does have is this wide telephoto rocker, which does mean that you can zoom in and out without having to touch the camera barrel. Because of the small size, it does mean that it has a very small grip, which isn't that user-friendly. And this camera can shoot 6 shots a second in burst mode. Another big limitation of the Sony A5100 because of its size is the lack of EVF, which is an electronic viewfinder, which means that you can only use the screen to monitor your shots. Very frustrating in bright situations where the screen is just completely washed out by the brightness of the sun, and you have no other way of monitoring your shots. Or if you just prefer the more traditional shooting style of having the camera up to your face, this isn't possible as you can only use the monitor. Another downside because of the size is that there is no hot shoe, which means that you can't attach a microphone or another flash to this device. Extra frustrating because it means you're stuck with the onboard audio, as there is also no 3.5mm jack input. So now let's talk about the Sony A6000. New, the price point is about £450, $450, but similar to the A5100, the best market for it is second-hand. It's larger than the A5100 at 120 by 67 by 45mm, and is a bit heavier at 344 grams. The A6000 does have a tilt screen, but frustratingly it doesn't have that 180-degree flip, which means it's not that suitable for vlogging unless you want to use an external monitor. It does flip 45 degrees down, which the A5100 doesn't at all, but only flips 90 degrees upwards. It also has no touchscreen controls at all, so these are two of the main reasons why I find that it is worse than the A5100. But because of the A6000's larger size, it does have lots of extra features, such as it has a proper function shoot mode wheel, it has space for extra function buttons, and it also has a function quick menu. All these features put together means that the usability of this camera is much higher compared to the A5100, and it is also much more customizable. It also has a pop-up flash, but with a larger 6-meter range, and the battery lasts for about 360 shots, so slightly less than the A5100. Another small disadvantage is that it doesn't have that wide telephoto rocker next to the shoot button, which the A5100 has. In my opinion, I don't really understand why this has been omitted, because there is definitely space where that could go. When it comes to burst fire, it shoots up to 11 frames per second, which is 5 higher than the A5100. And also another big advantage over the A5100 is that it does have that electronic viewfinder, EVF, which means that you can use it in bright light situations much easier, and you can also shoot with the camera close to your face if that's your preferred shooting style. It also does have that electronic hot shoot, which you can use for a microphone or an extra flash, which does mean you can have a higher level of professionalism and adaptability when it comes to recording audio or flash photography. So here now are some example photos and videos from both the Sony A5100 and the Sony A6000. I'll mark on each shot which camera it is from. So in conclusion, they are both excellent entry-level mirrorless cameras. Because they've got the same sensor, the same processor, they will take roughly the same shots, which means which camera to go for is a bit of a judgment call. If you want that flip screen, that slightly better battery and those touchscreen controls, I'd go for the Sony A5100. However, if the EVF, the extra function buttons and the hot shoe are more important to you, I would go for the Sony A6000. So overall, if you're looking for a camera for YouTube, selfies, vlogging, I would go for the Sony A5100 because it's lighter, more compact. I find it much more usable for this kind of scenario, whilst also being a good photography camera. However, if you're primarily looking for a photography camera, I would go for the Sony A6000 because of the extra function buttons and the customization. It makes it much easier to use for photography. So do you agree with my conclusions? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. And you can also check out my photography from both of these cameras on my Instagram page at aaron.prescott. But that's it from me for now. Until next time, see ya.